Welcome to the Conjure Room, everyone. Thank you for being here today. We are going to have an absolutely delightful conversation about when guidance is important to receive from your ancestors. So today's talk is really an opportunity for us to understand how the ancestors can support you with decisions that you're making, especially when you've tried everything else and now you need deeper guidance to really help you, guidance that's more aligned with who you are. So yes, so we are going to talk about that. No problem, Jana. So my question for you before we jump right in is, have you ever been in a situation where you need to make a decision and all of the information seems useful, but it just doesn't hit the way you need it to hit? Has that happened to you? Have you experienced that? It's like everything seems right on paper, yet something just remains unsettled for you. Like it just isn't quite there. Have you experienced that? If you have, just drop a yes in the comments. Let me know if that's something that has happened for you. How's that happened for you? And while you're thinking through that, yes, it has. Uh-huh. Yep. I think it's happened for all of us where there's something that just isn't quite aligned. And so we need some more information about how we can get the information that is more specific to who we are and what our soul is here to do. Beautiful. Okay. So what I want you to do now that you have kind of thought about that is I want you to take a moment to just write down one question you have today about your next steps. Just one question that keeps surfacing, keeps circling, that you need some support with, and just write it down. This is the beginning of you saying to the ancestors, I am seeking your guidance, your information, your support. So just take a moment to write that down. So I'll just give you a second there. I know for all of us, there's probably that one thing that if we had this piece of information, we'd be able to take the next step. And for some people, it could be around business, it might be around your personal life, it could be around finances. What is it that just needs some information that allows you to take the next step? Okay. What I've noticed is that accomplished women are often skilled at gathering information. We're really good at researching and talking to other people, considering the consequences, making responsible choices. But for some reason, some decisions remain unclear because the issue reaches beyond the practical details. It isn't in the practical details. And there's often times when you've really thought about everything carefully because that's what we do, right? We think about the impact it's going to have on other people. We pray about it. We've spoken with people that we trust that we think will give us good information. And still, we can't really find peace around that one decision that needs to be made or that next step that we need to take. And what I know from working with my clients is that it's usually a sign that the question that you have deserves deeper conversation. So let me talk about how sometimes this shows up. You keep returning to the same question over and over and over again. You keep thinking about it, you keep asking about it, you think you have the right answer, and then you wake up in the morning and you're like, that's not quite it either. And you start making a change. Or you do with one of my clients says she goes to the chat advisor, right? And so she wakes up and suddenly she's like, that's not quite the right answer or the right name of a program that she wants to create or the right group of people that she wants to work with. And so she heads right back into chat asking that same question over and over. And that's a sign that there's some deeper information that's there. And that's why you can't quite come to the decision. And then another sign is that every available option appears reasonable, but none of them feels quite complete for you. They just don't quite feel like they're the right decision. It's the right answer to what you need for your next step. It just doesn't feel complete. Another sign can be you feel responsible for how the choice will affect everyone else. And when that happens, oftentimes you don't take a deeper look. You don't really take time to decide what is really right for you. And that's when we know that there's something deeper under it as well. And then for some people, you will know if this is happening to you and that there's a sign that there's something deeper there when you suspect the issue is connected to your family history, or it's something inherited, or there's an inherited expectation. And then the other possible sign is the practical answer conflicts with what you sense spiritually. That's when you know that there's a sign. Because sometimes everything seems right on paper, it seems practical, but in your spirit, you just know that it's not quite the right thing for you. It's not the right direction. An example of that is a client who always said that she wanted to start a retreat home. She wanted a retreat house. She wanted a place where she could do deeper work with people, have them come and stay for a few days and work with her. And she had everything planned out. She was really excited about it. She knew exactly what she wanted. And then this opportunity presented itself. It was a beautiful building. It had everything she thought that she wanted. But unfortunately, that building ended up being the worst decision that she could have ever made. But she knew in her spirit when she decided to do it that it was the wrong direction for her. But she thought, oh, well, you know what? It'll work out. Maybe it's just fear. Maybe I'm just not, confident about the decision that I'm making. And she went ahead and just kept pushing forward and pushing forward and pushing forward. And she went into the building. It was beautiful. She decorated it and, she had a designer come in. It was absolutely stunning. But underneath the building, it was on the top floor, and underneath was a restaurant that played loud music. And that music came up through the floor. And it ruined the whole energy and vibe of what she was creating. And she had to make a decision to leave. But she kept getting that message that it wasn't the right, it just spiritually, she just felt in her spirit. She kept she said it just kept coming up, but she went ahead and went for it because everything was practical. Everything looked great on paper. The rent amount was something that she could afford to help her get started. And so, yeah, so she went ahead and moved forward with it. And she said she even had a visit from one of her ancestors. And she asked for the guidance. She had a visit from one of her ancestors, and the ancestor told her to slow down, to wait. And she said that she thought, again, that was fear. So she just kept stepping forward. Oftentimes, if we are in a situation where it just doesn't feel right in our spirit, then that's an opportunity to just slow down and stop for a moment. Because everything that's on paper that looks practical isn't always aligned with where we are going and the next steps that we need to take. And that's when ancestral guidance can also be very, very powerful. And in this case, it was powerful. She just didn't trust it. So unfortunately, we weren't working together at the time. If we were, I would have been able to help her understand what was hers and what was actually coming from the ancestors. So that happens. Have you ever had that situation where everything looked great on paper? You went ahead and made the decision, and you felt something wasn't quite right, but you went ahead and went with it anyway. And it could be something really, really small, but for some people it can be really big. So that you've experienced that, just say, yes, I've experienced it. And we know now that you can connect with the ancestors to make sure that you're making the right decision. And trust. Sometimes we don't trust what we're receiving. As I mentioned with her, sometimes we don't trust our own intuition. Well, when that happens, then oftentimes we make decisions that aren't really aligned with what we really want. But because most of us have learned to look at things through strategy and practicality, that sometimes we don't allow that intuition to kick in the way it can and tell us to slow down or consult with our guides and trust the information that's coming through. Yeah. So some of the questions that I find people have, and they really um, have some other things that are underneath them, are things like, should I leave this position? That's one that I hear a lot from women. Should I leave the position? Should I start a business? And what I know is that when that question starts to come up and it just keeps coming up and keeps coming up, there are other things that are in place, but there are some things that are underlying. And it can be somewhere in the family lineage, there was some stories around security that took place. And so those stories are coming up, some stories around loyalty, maybe some stories around the permission to choose differently than what everybody expects. So when that question starts to come up and it comes up over and over and over and over again, usually somewhere underneath it, there could even be some fear. There's ancestral stories. There's a lack of trust about what you're receiving and the guidance that you're receiving. So those are some of the things that can come up when that question comes up. Another one is, should I begin this work? I hear that a lot from people who are either in business and they're making some transitions and some changes. And I hear it from people who are also really just getting ready to get started in their work. And so they'll ask, should I really begin this work? Do I have enough information? Am I ready? Is this the right move to make? And sometimes that question is connected to the medicine that you've inherited, the gifts that you've inherited. Maybe they haven't come through for you just yet. Maybe you're not quite in tune with them yet. So that question will begin to come up. Another way that it shows up too is you will find that sometimes that question will come up if there is some stories in your family lineage about worthiness, whether or not I'm worthy, whether or not I can really do this, can I really pull this off, who am I to actually do this? Those are signs that there's probably some ancestral stories that need to be cleared and healed and released in order for you to be able to feel confident stepping forward. But it could also mean that there's some ancestral medicine and gifts that want to come through, and they're not quite aligned with the work that you're saying that you're interested in beginning, but aren't sure about. So the other questions that I hear, should I remain in this relationship? That's a big one. I get that from people all the time. Should I remain in this relationship? And while I don't touch on those relationship issues, what I do know is when someone is asking that question, there's often more to it than just the relationship is having problems. Sometimes there's family patterns that are involved. Sometimes once again, there's inherited wounds. There's broken a lineage of broken relationships or infidelity that has taken place, abuse, maybe abandonment of some sort that has taken place in the family lineage. So when that question starts to surface, that question can apply to what the person is actually experiencing, but it can also carry some of these the stories that are underneath that question. And there could be situations in the family lineage where there was silence and there's some challenges around responsibility. So I know when I hear that question, it's more than just a question about what's happening in the relationship. It's often tied to some of the other things that have happened ancestrally. Another one is, why can't I move forward? And this one is very interesting because I'll hear people say, I always feel blocked. There's something blocking me. There's something that's stopping me. I don't feel like I can move forward. Every time I try, something comes up. And that is a situation where I look at what other stories are playing underneath it. And grief is one of those. Grief oftentimes creates that inability to move forward. So if you come from a lineage where there was a large amount of grief, from wars, it could be from famine, it could be from some type of loss, it could be from a family member who died at a young age, and not just your lived experience, but ancestrally. So it can go back many, many, many generations. And when that happens, sometimes that grief that even we may not have experienced in our own physical lives. I mean, we haven't had a lot of grief or a lot of loss. But if the lineage has had a vast amount of loss, then what will happen sometimes is that will cause a problem with trying to move forward. It causes an interference. And sometimes obligation plays a part. And once again, deeper ancestral stories around influence, stories around choices that were made. If you're trying to move forward in a business that has some spiritual aspects to it, sometimes it can be ancestors who practiced what you want to practice, but then they were harmed or they were shunned in some cases, or they were abandoned or betrayed as a result of it, then those are sometimes the reasons why moving forward becomes really challenging and difficult for people. And then sometimes the why can't I move forward question is also connected to your ancestral inheritance. It's connected to you not knowing what that medicine is that can enhance the work that you want to do and the step forward that you want to take. So your decision may be personal while the patterns around it may be older than you are. So that's what I'm saying about these questions, is that these questions that come up for us that we're challenged with answering, or we're unsure of, or they keep repeating, are often fueled by the ancestral stories that happened way before we were born into this life experience. So ancestral guidance is really a source of perspective, and it gives you the information that is based on your ancestors actually knowing your purpose. They know what you came here for. They have walked this planet more recently. They understand what some of the challenges are from a lived perspective. They also know what is in the family lineage, what's in the bloodline, what's available to you. They're clear about it. They know what it is. They know how to support you. They know how to help you. So those ancestors now can come forward and help to answer some of the questions that you may have. And some of the ways that this can be helpful is it can help you really understand when a decision feels insignificant, help you understand why that decision feels insignificant. It can help you recognize the inherited influences. So when we are working with the ancestors and we're connecting with them and connecting with their guidance, it can help us understand, what have we inherited? The challenges that we've inherited and all of the gifts that we've inherited from them. What's inherited, and how do I utilize it, and how do I heal it if it needs to be healed? So connecting with the ancestors helps us recognize that influence. It can help us to see when something that has happened in the family lineage may be interfering with our ability to answer the question that we want to answer. Connecting with the ancestors also helps us identify the next appropriate step. And I see this quite often when I've had clients come to me and say, okay, I'm not quite sure about the next steps that I need to take. I'm not quite sure if I should, step into this new way of delivering my services. Should I start this new program? And when we connect in with their ancestors, we're able to not necessarily say yes or no, because it's usually not a yes or no answer. It's more of a how answer. How will this work? How do we step into this new body of work? So it helps us identify the next appropriate step. It also helps us understand which ancestor may be supporting you. That's extremely important because when we know which ancestors are supporting you, then that makes it easier for you to connect with them on your own for guidance, support, or just to know that you are connected to something higher, bigger, and more expansive than you are. It helps you to know what they carry and how they're here to support you. For instance, you may have an ancestor that was a midwife, and maybe you're at a point where you're giving birth to something new. Or maybe you are literally a midwife yourself, or maybe you're in the process of writing something new. It's a new project that you're working on. Or maybe you're helping your clients give birth to something new. You can connect with that midwife if she is the one that is working with you right now and wants to support you. You can connect with her and ask for guidance and ask for support and information. You can ask her to just send through you what is needed to support you. That often is really, really powerful. When I work with my clients, I teach them how to allow the ancestors to express through them so that it helps guide them in the work that they're doing. So the other information that you can get from connecting with your ancestors is how to separate your responsibility and what belongs to somebody else. So what you own, what is yours, and what belongs to someone else. Sometimes we carry with us not just our ancestral wounds, challenges, stories, but we also carry with us the stories of other people. And when we start to carry those stories, they influence the decisions, how we move, how we decide what we're going to do next. They influence our beliefs, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the work that we're doing. And when we carry those and they're not of ours, they're not helpful oftentimes. And the ancestors can help us when we have become unsure. We've lived this experience for so long that sometimes we don't know what's actually ours and what is coming from other people. Sometimes it's very clear, but oftentimes it can be hidden, so we don't know. Ancestral guidance really should support grounded choice. You still retain the responsibility for your life and your decisions. So it's not about turning over your decisions and your thoughts and your abilities to the ancestors, but it really is about seeking out their support and advice, and then you using your own discernment about what works for you and what's right for you. And when you have discovered what those ancestral stories are that may be playing a part in how you're making decisions, once we've cleared those and healed those, when you are looking at a decision, you know that you're looking at it from your own place of being and not from carrying ancestral stories. And then you can make those decisions much easier. So connecting with the ancestors helps you to make decisions easier for yourself. But what needs to happen, and this is what we're going to work on a little bit right now, when you are talking to the ancestors, it really helps to have a clear question. Be really clear about what the question is. Just a general question like, should I leave? Should I go? often isn't really helpful. A yes, no question, that really isn't going to be helpful. You really want to ask a more detailed question. So think about that question that I had you write down when we first started, and go back and look at that question for a minute. And is the question a yes, no question, or is it a very broad question like, what should I do with my life? That's a pretty broad question, and that's going to take you longer to get the information from your ancestors. So look at the question. Is your question broad? Does your question need a little more defining? Questions like, what am I overlooking in this decision? That's more clear. What deserves my attention now? Which part of the situation may be connected to my lineage? What responsibility is truly mine? Oh, so the question, Yana, was a question about your next steps. Question you may need to ask the ancestors. What is what is it that you are working on right now, or that you need help with, or a question that you may have that you really need answered in order to help you take that next step? A question like, what responsibility is truly mine, and what is ancestral? What's the next appropriate step? And the one that I always love is, which ancestor may be supporting me through this transition? That one is always powerful. Which ancestor may be supporting me through this transition? Because when we ask that question, even if we don't get the name of an ancestor or learn specifically about them, when we ask that question, that's an invitation to that ancestor to step closer. Now, when we work together, I am able to give you that answer. When you're first starting out with your connection, you may not get it right away. But that's okay, because once again, that question is an invitation. So a focused question gives the guidance somewhere to land. You don't need to solve the entire future in one conversation with your ancestors. What you're doing is just getting information for the next step. One question. And any of those questions would be helpful. So take a look at your question once again, and if the question is broad, just take a moment to rewrite the question. And if you want to share the question in the chat, you're welcome to do that as well. So one question. Think about it. If it helps, think about a decision that has continued to return, even if you have given it serious thought. What decision continues to return? What question? And then think about what you most need to understand about that decision. And now I'm going to take you on a short guided journey where we're going to connect with the ancestors. And as you take this journey, know that, where should I be going in the next stage of my life? Great. Okay. Yes, let's take that to the ancestors. Take it to the ancestors. I'm going to take you on a journey. We're going to connect with the ancestor that is most aligned with your question right now. You may get information from them right now, or it may just be an introduction that starts the conversation. Starts the conversation. So just take a moment to close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And release. And relax. And we are going to take this journey. So if you're not in a place where you can do this safely, then just wait and do it later. It'll be uploaded to YouTube, and you can go to YouTube and you can take this journey then. So just feel a beautiful, peaceful light surrounding you. This is the energy of all the beings that are aligned to support you as you take the next step. These beings have gathered here with you. Just your presence in this group has invited them to be a part of this gathering for you. Take a moment to just feel the beauty of this energy, knowing that you are the one that they came here to support. You're the one that they're focused on. And as you sit in this space, notice what's around you. Where have you landed? Are you outside? Are you inside? Where is your mind taking you to? And that's where you're gathering with your village. And as you gather with your village of ancestors, you have one ancestor that steps forward and takes your hand and guides you to a seat for just the two of you. Share your question with this ancestor now. Ask the question and just notice how you feel. Any sensations, any thoughts, any colors, any ideas. Just notice what begins to surface when you sit with this ancestor and ask your question. This ancestor is receiving your question. And now the ancestor offers you advice, maybe a symbol, a word, a message that helps you receive that message, that word, the gift. Whatever this ancestor has to offer in this moment, receive it now. This is your first gift from the ancestor. And now he or she is sharing a name with you. The name could be a symbol. The name could be a word. Or it could be the name of an ancestor, recently passed or many generations back. Receive this ancestor's name now. This is the name that this ancestor wants to be called. This is the name that you can call when you want to connect. Receive that name now. Thank this ancestor for sitting with you for this moment. Let the ancestor know that you'd like to connect again and that you receive the guidance and you look forward to having multiple connections. Thank you to this ancestor. And now the ancestor guides you back towards the village where all the ancestors and guides are gathered to support you. And each of them sends you the energy you need to support you on your journey, your next steps, to help you with your decision. Have clarity and the confidence and the courage to take the next step. And now the ancestors surround you with this beautiful white light as they begin to go back. And they float away. And you're back into your space, surrounded by the beautiful white light of love, guidance, support, courage, loyalty, and abundance. And as this light begins to dissolve, you come back into the present moment. And just take a deep breath and release and just kind of shake out. And if you'd like, feel free to share the name that the ancestor gave you. What was the name, the symbol? Could be a letter, a word. What did you receive? And I just want you to know, sometimes people say, oh, well, you know what? I did this, but I didn't really get anything. I didn't feel anything. I didn't see anything. That's okay. When we're first starting, that is perfectly okay because the ancestors may take time to actually meet you where you are. But what you have done is you've introduced yourself. You let them know that you're open to receiving the guidance, and that guidance can come in multiple ways. That guidance may come in the middle of a dream at night. It may come through a song. It can come through a conversation with someone else. It can come through random thoughts. It can come while you're reading a book. It can come while you're writing. There's multiple ways that that information can come through for you. So even if you didn't quite receive anything right now, that is perfectly great. Okay, don't feel like, oh, well, it didn't work for me and I didn't get anything. My ancestors don't want to connect with me. It isn't anything like that. Sometimes it just takes a moment for the ancestors to come through. My ancestors gave me the same name. Is it Sindra? And received message. Yes. Nice. Very nice. Well, what I would encourage you to do with that name is to take the name and write it out somewhere and then place it on your altar as an invitation for the ancestor to come through and support you. Yeah, beautiful, wonderful. And we've talked about you in connecting with your ancestors, so I'm glad that you were able to receive that information. Yeah, so your ancestors are always around you, surrounding you, connecting with you. This makes it more intentional when we go and do that journey and connect with them. And this is something that you can actually do on your own too, by the way. You don't have to wait for me to guide you. You can now guide yourself into your ancestral village and then ask that that ancestor or another ancestor comes forward. Yeah, so you can do that on your own. Okay, the name is Sholu, and they gave me a beautiful watch with no hands and numbers in a random order. I put too much emphasis on time and need to know things will happen at the right time always. Very nice. That's great information. Absolutely. I would say that maybe you could draw that watch, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be an artist. You could draw a picture of that watch and then place it on your altar. And if you don't have a formal altar, you can have photo, a glass of water, or you can just have an offering to the ancestors. It could be a little small offering. It could be anything from a plant to flowers to small bites of food that you know your ancestors enjoyed. You can place that with that watch and ask for more guidance But I love that they're telling you that oftentimes what happens is we want the information to happen the way we want the information to come. We want it to be the way we want it to be. And sometimes we even want it to come at the time we want it to come. And it doesn't always work like that. And I'm glad that it doesn't, because our mind sometimes can't even begin to see what the possibilities are that the ancestors can see for us. Yeah, so just allow it to flow. Give yourself some time and really practice that. Okay. And you said you're going to do just that. I can see it clearly. Beautiful. Wonderful. Yes. Okay. So before we end, I want to let you know that I am going to stay on the line for questions. So if you do have a question, keep your hand up and I will come on and answer your question in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to share with you about the Ancestral Guidance Circle. So the Ancestral Guidance Circle is an opportunity for 6 women to come together, and I work with your ancestors to answer a question that you may have. So today you started with a question, and I help guide you in the ancestral circle on, how to be very specific about that question. And you'll have an opportunity to ask your question, and I connect with your ancestors and give you information that is specific to you from your ancestors. Now, what's beautiful about the group is that everyone gets an opportunity to ask a question, and everyone is going to get an answer. And just because that information is specific to you from your ancestors doesn't mean it's only for you. It can be helpful for anyone in the group. Because when we gather with the ancestors, just like we gather in person, what one person asks can oftentimes help everyone in the group. And it's the same thing. One question can help everyone in the group. You have the opportunity to hear what the ancestors are saying that helps other people. The circle is not a one-time event. I'm going to do the circle every quarter. This is the first circle that I am doing this year. And I have done these circles for a number of years, but I took a break and I haven't done them in the last couple of years. So the circle is new this year. And so the first one is on August 27th. It's at 11 a.m. And here's the great thing. I sent out a message earlier today, which many of you received, and I was on Shafali's show. Shafali's on here right now, Awaken to Happiness Now. And I offered this circle with the Conjure 21 connection program that helps you have a direct connection with your ancestors. And I offered a special on there so that you can get both of those. And if you're interested in that, then please go to the email, and I'll also include it in this replay email. Go there, take a listen to the interview that we did, because there's some really good information in there about ancestral medicine. Go and listen, take a look at her website, see the special offer that she has, and you'll be able to join both programs at a special rate. If you're only interested in the circle, that's okay too. If you're only interested in the circle, then I will pop a link to the circle in here for you so that you can join the circle. But you can get both programs for a special if you join both programs. Go to Shafali's program. And if you have, Shafali, if you have the link to the YouTube, feel free to put it in, or a link to the page. I was going to grab it and I didn't have a chance to grab it, and you can actually put it in the comments. I would highly encourage you to take a look and go. And the really beautiful thing about her show is that there are some wonderful speakers as well. So you can go and take a look and sign up there. But also you'll receive it in an email, and it is in the email that I sent earlier this morning as well. Great, there we go. Yep. So she has popped it in the chat. You can take a look. If you want both of those programs, that is the place to go. If you want to sign up to Conjure Connection 21, then I would say go over to her website and sign up for that program. Beautiful, thank you. So the registration is open. There's only 6 spots. And once those are gone, that's it. Because I want to keep this at a small group so that everybody gets an opportunity to connect with their ancestors. This is an active participation. This isn't something where you just kind of sit back and you listen. Nope, you ask a question, you get supports, you get answers and help. So come to the group if this is something that you know is going to be supportive for you and you know that you're at a critical point where you need an answer. This is a great opportunity for you to get that. So some decisions require practical information and others ask you to understand a deeper story, which we've talked about today, a deeper story that's surrounding the choice that needs to be made. And when the question continues to return and continues to surface and continues to come up for you, your ancestors may be inviting you to listen more closely. Your ancestors are speaking to you through that repeated question. So think about those questions that keep repeating for you. And just know that there's more to the question. And you can get answers and guidance straight from your ancestors. So I want to thank you for joining me today. If you want to stay on, I'm going to stop the recording because I don't record the Q&A. So I'm going to stop the recording. And if you have questions, you can ask questions.